Yes, Lo! Time for our guy, Anderson Paak. Album
Yes,
number
sir.
3. His solo album number 3, I should say.
Correct.
So Venice, Malibu, and now Oxnard. Anderson Paak, I mean, we reviewed Malibu. Maybe you did solo. I can't remember when we first started up, right?
Well, that came out January 2016, like right before we started the podcast. So we didn't. I don't think we really talked about it until we did end of year. I know I had it number 3. My albums of 2016. I don't think we talked about Yes Law, his project with Knowledge, the producer as well. So yeah, this is really the first project we're talking about as it's come out from him. Given that post Malibu, he got a song in an Apple commercial, toured with Bruno Mars, and then went away for a little bit. So this is really the first time we've had a chance to really talk about him in the moment.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because I feel like, we obviously have actors, musicians that we highlight a lot on here and we ride for. I feel like between us both, since you turned me on to him back in 2016, Paak's been one of our favorites, one of the people we've been most excited for, most anticipating his album this year. It's finally here. Oxnard. What's your take on it, Dave? Good album, bad album?
Yeah, I really, really like it. I think it might be my album of the year right now.
Ooh.
Obviously that's a tentative statement. Don't hold me to that yet. I'll put it in stone in a month. But no, it's funny because Malibu, I think, is probably a better record than Oxnard. And I had Malibu number 3 in 2016, but that's really just because Malibu came out in the year that Kanye and Chance also made music. Not really a slight against Anderson.
And really good album, too.
Right. And Oxnard, it's funny because I was reading some reviews, and it's funny where I feel like I'm one of the few people that's like, this is capital G great. And most people are like, oh, no, this is lowercase g good. There's some issues. And I'm like, yeah, there's some issues, but I still think what works here works so well that it's like, I mean, how can you hate? So I really like the project, but what did you think?
I liked it a lot. I'm not putting it as my album of the year. I think that Janelle Monáe is still holding that crown for me, but the thing about this album for me is there are definitely some songs that I found myself not going back to so much, but there's so much, especially on the back half of this album, that I found myself coming back to constantly throughout the weekend and just thinking about a lot. The features alone on this and how Paak was able to pull, great features out of Kendrick, Q-Tip, Cole, who sounded amazing, Snoop Dogg, who I don't know where this verse came from, but if Snoop Dogg could replicate this all the time, he would be relevant constantly. He's obviously still such a huge name, but just the level he got to on this is unbelievable. And then BJ, the Chicago kid, also delivered on his. So, I obviously really liked it. It's going to be in my top 10 for sure, probably top 5. But you talked about the things that you felt worked really well. What were those things that stood out most to you?
Yeah, I think what it makes Anderson so interesting, ever since he popped up on Compton, Dr. Dre's last album in 2015, he had 6 features on, and that's really where damn near everyone first heard of him, right? It was obviously a big look for him, and then obviously Dre helped him make Oxnard, and he's featured on here as well. And ever since that point, and then obviously Malibu, Venice, right, all that, Anderson's always stood out because he can do so many different things. He was an XXL freshman, but it's really hard to just call him a rapper, right? He obviously raps and he brings soulful and funky stylings to rap, but he also has like an amazing ear for drums. And this is all within this, uniquely raspy voice. So he's such a unique vocalist that does so many different things, all while having an ear for multiple genres almost all the time, right? I wouldn't call any of his project rap albums, even though he raps on lots of his projects. The majority of the time he is in fact rapping, right? And I think that's what's just so cool about him, because he's so unique. And it's like, yeah, we can find parallels to Kendrick and Chance if you want to find them, but I feel like he ultimately is his own guy. And I think he made songs on Oxnard that, can stand up with his other big smashes and the songs that really sound like this quintessential Anderson Paak songs. Now, while I don't think there is something as high and great as probably a Come Down from Malibu, I don't think we have that here. Um, I think when we do have, songs like Six Summers and Savior's Road, and then even some of the songs that are heavy on the features, like My Brother's Keeper, I think these are dynamite songs. And, I think they'll go into his, single canon. So
Mhm.
and then, I mean, almost all the songs I really dug, and I've been going back to a lot of them. I think Who Are You, a song that is probably the most rapidy he's ever been. Um, and maybe that sacrificed a little personality in the process, but, like he ultimately across the album, he doesn't really change who he was. He's still a guy who likes to rap about the way he likes ladies, right? Like he's very
Mhm.
hedonistic, almost misogynistic guy in a certain sense, but because he comes at it in a unique way, it's like not only tolerable, but it's almost always amusing. So
Mhm.
I don't I thought this was like incredibly on brand for Anderson. And like I said, I think there's several songs that will be lofty on his, top songs lists for sure. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
tough to find a lot to dislike on here.
Yeah, and I think where a big critique of this album is that people feel like it's overly ambitious at points, and it
Right.
makes it hard to deliver on all of it. Which I think I can see that. Like for example, was it the song "Smile Petty," which
Mhm.
is the his basically his political song. Is that it's his political song? For me,
Right.
it kind of hit, kind of didn't. I think it's catchy, and I think that there's some really good moments on that track. But overall, it kind of felt like a shift away from the personality he's come to be known as, which is also probably something that he's trying to grow. Is that his personality is not just this, like goofy, like you said, hedonistic character. He's a complex human being with complex thoughts who exists in our world. So he's obviously going to have opinions on these things. I I think when he's at his best is when he is light and funny, though. Like a song like "Sweet Chicks," which is probably like the least serious song on this whole album. Really, I found myself coming back to just because it was a lot of fun, and I found it incredibly funny, especially how it kind of ends with the girl being upset with him and I guess shooting him, or at least shooting at him. But just how the way he kind of transitions from all of it, I mean, uh, it's just really fun to listen to, and uh, he does it like you said over this shifting genre bending music that is funky and dancey and hip hop infused and even like disco at times, like Tints. I feel like you could
Sure.
put that with the like those people doing like the disco dancing back in the 70s, like make that a music video right now. It's like perfect for it. So I mean, there's a lot to like on here. You mentioned the features, which, and I was talking about them too. Which ones were you most impressed by, and which ones were you like, yeah, could probably done without that?
I think J. Cole's feature is really great. He's actually been on an impressive feature run this year on top of KOD coming out. So I really liked him on Trippy. And then probably Q-Tip on Cheers.
Mm.
Q-Tip is interesting because you could definitely see him as an influence for Anderson, both the Tribe sound and both Q-Tip specifically as a vocalist, as a curator of sounds. And not only that, Q-Tip actually thought really brought it with the feature. So I think that's a really cool pairing that works really well.
Mhm.
And then I think Dre, it's Dr. Dre's old. I don't kind of hate on him too much for it, but
His delivery is just so strange now. He keeps it
I,
so like
I saw it
jagged.
described as militaristic, and I was
Mm.
like, yeah, that sounds about right. He loves to go to the gym now too. And then Pusha T, I think I really like Push's in fitting with the theme of the song. I really liked his comments about Malice, talking about clips and stuff. Thought
Mhm.
that was cool. And then the Kendrick feature, I think ultimately is like a disposable Kendrick feature, but it fits the
Sure.
song really well. And
Mhm.
I was like, this actually technically it's the lead single from this because Bubblin' isn't on Oxnard, but I think that was still good. So yeah, there wasn't any features I disliked. I thought BJ Chicago Kid again was really good on Sweet Chick. He's always really good.
Mhm.
Kind of reminded me of the song The Dreamer at the end of Malibu. Yeah, so I think it's I think the Chase and Headlow, the first two songs, you know, I probably find those songs more the least memorable ones. But like you said, once you get into the middle and back half of this album, it just really doesn't stop.
Yeah, it hits a groove and it just kind of, you just ride with it. Just one thing I did want to highlight in that in Sweet Chick, he does give a Gautier reference, which, I mean, any rapper that's mixing in a Gautier line, I mean, I'm here for it. So Anderson .Paak, Oxnard, certified fresh by Nowstalgia Pod. Definitely check it out. We'll have a couple of songs on our playlist again, so please follow that and tell all your friends about Anderson .Paak. He's probably one of the most underrated performers out there right now for the quality he's putting out consistently. Also, I loved how he shouted out Mac in one of the songs.
Absolutely.
Which obviously he released Dang with Mac, or featured on Mac's album. So, definitely still a loss. Mac is still a loss that I think a lot of the music industry is feeling pretty heavily.